Welcome to the Creative Corner podcast. We look forward to introducing you to the creative world right here in Philly. Today we have Lindo Yes, the writer of The Pawn Shop. So, Lindo, tell us about yourself.
I'm a spoken word poet from Philly, to be more exact, Germantown part of Philly. And I'm a comic book writer. So yeah, and just a all out blur. I'm like into everything nerdy. Recently, I started getting into like tabletop games.
Tabletop games,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I've been like easing my way into Dungeons and Dragons, D&D.
Yeah, man, this is great to have you here. So, when did you discover this about yourself?
Uh, I don't know. This is like asking me the question of just like the chicken or the egg, because it's just like I feel like as long as I had an imagination, I always thought, what was possible in my immediate circumstances that I wasn't seeing, and that has always allowed me to imagine not only just a better, but things that sometimes feel like it lives in the fantastical until it becomes real. Like, when you think about things like the first season of Power Rangers where they're talking into their morphers,
Yeah.
and now we're in 2025, and it's like, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
people talk into their watches now. So that's very close.
It is.
So it's like, for me, it's like, I have always been imaginative. I have always thought of just the fantastical, but then I have always thought about it of just like in a way of like it is tangible. It
Mm-hmm.
is tangible. It's just about will and time. So I don't know. I was born this way.
So the comic book writer was always there.
Oh yeah, even when I had like shifts in my career, meaning just like, initially I always knew I wanted to be a poet, but I never
Mm-hmm.
knew what that looked like for me to be a poet. Is it just someone that is simply on stage? Is it someone who is pursuing academia where it was just like I'm putting out a book, I'm teaching classes, I'm trying to get my MFA? Or is it someone that is really just trying to publish, constantly publish? Or is it someone that's just in the writer's room where it's just like, I'm working on a sitcom, I'm helping a commercial put together a good tag? I I recognize that I wanted to do poetry in this way where I added fantastical to it. I added something imaginative. I add some time traveling to it because the first time I looked at an open mic list, it felt like alias for superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is my power. It felt very empowering to know that, I can impact people with words and to spin their imagination to the point where it's just like you're not viewing a person in front of the mic saying a poem,
Mm-hmm.
but you're viewing everything that I'm telling you to imagine with my ability to impact you with words that is storytelling right now. And the wonderful thing about the imagination has no budget.
Yeah.
So it became more and more fantastical for me to be on stages to tell people these poems that felt like stories to them, to the point where I'm at right now, where I'm actually, putting I'm putting together like, a shift in my career, visual poetic, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting out a lot of content online where I'm matching visual things with the poems that I'm saying to the point it leads up to the comic book pawn shop. So, for me, it's just like it has always been hand to hand.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. So anyone that sees you, they can see that you're a poet. It's like
Yeah,
it's literally written on you.
yeah.
So
Here we are. I'm here.
yeah. So would you say that's like a statement to say that like you're not just a poet, you are poetry?
I want people access point to, you know what, that's funny. I saw the Barbie movie, and the Ken doll
Mm-hmm.
had said, everybody think I'm just a lifeguard, but my really ability is surf or beach, something like that. And I think a lot of times, I've been thinking of myself in that way, as like amusing that was. I think there's some truth to it in the sense of just like people think of me as a poet, but really what I'm trying to do, especially when I'm on stage, is embody the poem.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I'm trying to utilize as much of the stage, as much as your imagination as possible to deliver a really like groundbreaking poem that, you know, at its most mediocre level sparks something inside you. At its highest level, it is a night in a fire that you cannot put out.
Okay.
And so, like, you know, I want people access point to be with me, you know, at, you know, as a poet, because it's written all over me. It's what I have, you know, essentially branded myself. But ultimately, it's really just giving you some words that impact you, that spark something. If it doesn't, if it doesn't already ignite a fire that you can't put out.
Okay. So, with that being said, talk about the pawn shop.
Yeah, Pawn Shop is an Afrofuturist graphic novel
Okay.
that is talking about a world that exists with universal healthcare.
Okay.
And with universal healthcare, there is two entities that help us regulate our emotions. One is called emojis that are walking around like social workers that are helping people with sadness and depression, all the kind of just lows. And then there are cupids that functions like couple therapists where they're helping people to stay in love and also helping people with heartbreak. And this world exists in Philly. And it's just a story of just like how these people feel isolated with all their emotions, but their stories intersect at different points. So the book is written in a way where each chapter could stand alone, but I want the reader to recognize that just like these characters who had subtle interaction with each other, we're not alone with our emotions. So it's meant to be read together, but also it could stand alone. And that's Pawn Shop for you, where it's just recognizing that, you know, to order to make this world so gentle that we can walk around barefooted, we have to recognize that we have to walk with each other and what those
Okay.
steps look like.
Okay. I like that. I love that. I mean, free healthcare definitely sounds really nice.
Yes.
I'm just gonna come out and say it. It does.
Yes, it does.
So, with that being said, I got like a question I was very curious about because when I was reading it, I saw that you left a note that said this page was inspired by a convo with my friend Jessica about bubbles.
Oh, yes.
So, what was that conversation?
Word. One shout out to you getting that copy where I left sticky notes inside the book. I'm always trying to do something just to, you know, immerse the reader in just like one, the book itself, but also just the writing process. So no matter where you're at in your life, of just like if you're thinking of yourself as a writer, or you're just thinking of yourself as just like someone that used to just love the BTS of a movie, that you're getting something that enhances your quality of experience. In the process of creating my manuscript, I wrote a line in there where it's just like, you know, the world could be so gentle that bubbles will last for uh, so much time that before they pop. And you know, sometimes when you're creating lines as a poet, some things just like sit with you, and you know that they really work really well, and you expand on them, you try to build on them, you try to make them, you know, grand. And for me, that was just like a line that I was just like, oh, that's neat. I think that's a great way to say that we can take care of each other, right? And then I was having a conversation with my friend Jessica, and she had said to me, you know, as she was reviewing my manuscript, I love that so much. And when she said that with so much, like, just like a, a excitability in her voice, I became just like, oh, this is not just a good line. This is a great line that I have to make better. And so, therefore, it made me change the landscape of just like the panel itself, where before, you know, traditionally panels are just boxes side by side, but this one I wanted to make it look like the bubbles that one of the girls are blowing. So it goes from her blowing bubbles to now it becoming the layout of the panel. And to me, that just like lets you know that, you know, for the sake of just like not spoiling too much in the book, that you're in an impact moment, that something has transitioned, but not only has transitioned, but has transformed in the world where it is the turning of the door. It's like that scene in the first Black Panther where Killmonger is walking towards the throne, and you see the camera turn
Yeah.
all the way around. Where not only are you recognizing the transition of power, but the transformation that he's about to do in his time of being king of Wakanda. And that's what trying to do with that page.
Okay, I love that. I love that a lot. So, would you say that the art that the reader sees is just as much as a poem as like anything else they would read in the book?
Of course.
Okay.
There's a cliche saying of just like pictures say 1,000 words,
Mm-hmm.
and for someone who is navigating the world with dyslexia, the way the world becomes more accessible to me is with like images. And I have spent
Mm.
so much of my time as a poet making the world accessible to me in that way, but also trying to allow people to access me in that way. So for me, you know, it is about about letting the images speak the words of just like what is considered fringe politics of like talking about universal health care in such a way it becomes as appealing as candy because the images look so good the way it
Okay.
is. So as much as the poetry and the monologues are like significant to it, they are saying maybe 20, 30 words, but the images itself are saying a thousand words that, for some people that reading can feel heavy with. I think what the great thing about graphic novels is it eases some of that because they're images that coincide with what you're reading that allows you to digest it a little bit better.
Okay. So, what was the process in getting the Lindo brain into your graphic artist and to your publisher and to anyone else in the process of getting this out?
Uh, that this is I'm trying to make that short because it is a
Okay.
it is a process. For me, you know, I'm taking poems that I have performed on stage
Mm.
for years at this point and trying to transform them to page, but not only to page, but also to illustrations. Part of that process is familiar with me because it is the reason why, I got the attention of, my publishing company, Row House, because I was
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of visual poetics. I was matching a lot of my poems with short animation, with images. So I was constantly working with illustrators, animators to do so. So that didn't seem too kind of just like out my reach. But what did feel out my reach is like when I'm performing a poem, I'm suspending so much like disbelief because I'm only giving you 5 minutes. But with a reader, I am now sitting with them and supposed to give them the world.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot of like in my manuscript, and I think they call this like the Bible of like your concept of the world. I had to stick with just like figuring out what the rules, what could happen, what couldn't happen, what could the
Mm-hmm.
cupids do, what was too far fetched and stuff like that, and what was the roles, what made this different. So there's things that I know as a writer that I just didn't put in a book, but helped me navigate the manuscript of just like I can't break this.
Mm-hmm.
What was the character flaws and successes and all those things. So that was the whole manuscript process of recognizing the world building. But then also I have to articulate my writing to the illustrators. There's two
Mm-hmm.
illustrators. There's Javon, who is a nationally recognized poet, but also just a dope illustrator. He did the layouts and also just like the inking, the sketching.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Jazz, who is just phenomenal. Jazz been a part of my like career since I decided to get into visual poetics, and she's doing a lot of just like the illustration edit. She's our like third pass, and she's also doing the texting and then also the coloring. So I have to write out the monologue, but then also leave illustration descriptions where it makes sense to them. And they made that process so easy because they were asking really good clarifying questions, or since they're both, based in Philly, they got the idea. They got idea of just like the grit I want to show, but the approachability. Where I feel as though a lot of Philadelphians are like, oh, we don't say hi and good morning. At the most, we give you a head nod. But if you ask us for directions, we're going to tell you how to get there. So we're not as invested in the pleasantry as versus just like the care. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like, so I wanted them to capture that, and the illustration of it. So once we got down to that process of just like illustrating the book, and all that work was done, it was then like the heavy part of the work was just like, I'm signed to any publishing company. And when I say any publishing company, it's like two people that are doing a fantastic job of just putting out so many books about the intersection of just like the social justice work that we need to do, and the conversations that we need to have that are both imaginative but also enact that imagination of the world. And their motto is just like raising a volume of people. And then I'm signed to a big distribution company that puts out like 50% of the books in the world. So it was navigating those conversations of just like, what is a good rollout? Who are the people that we need to talk to? And some of those conversations went over my head, and then some of them I was like, oh, there's a lot of other. It's not just saying go. It is like, all right, how are we gonna get from one point to the other, and figuring out A, B, C, D, E, F, G of this, like, books live with people forever, so it lives with my career forever. So it's like mapping all that out. So when we were in like some of the marketing conversations, some of just like the rollout conversations, it got heavy, and I learned a lot about book politics in that process.
So the Philly that is in here, it's definitely Philly. And I think you have like a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly of Philly.
Yeah.
So how did you pick out what you wanted that Philly in the book to be?
You know what? I've been asked this question a couple of times, and in the process of making my manuscript, I was trying to make my book digestible for people that was not from Philly and still like get it. But it ended up being still Philly. I mean, Philly in a way that I wasn't being intentional. Like, I wanted people to get, that this is happening in Philly. But I also wanted people to get that what Philly looked like to me. And what I think Philly looks like largely to people is just row homes and corner stores. So I wanted to avoid like what I would consider like the landmarks of just like what you would see in a film to identify Philly, of just like William Penn on City Hall, or the Love Sign, or the Rocky Steps, and all those things. I really want to show that Philly was just a whole bunch of row homes and corner stores. And that was so important to me. But then I also wanted to show that within us talking to each other, there was a level of just like, oh, that's how they say in Philly. And I was navigating that, and also wanting to be understood for those that may not in the know. But Philly's just all I know. So it was just like, even with me trying to intentionally pull back on just like how much I was saying John, and when I said John, it was still just like, Philly's all I know. And so therefore it still came out. So for me, it was just really, I think at the heart of hearts of it, unconsciously, I was just really trying to, create people I love. And they are just so Philly. And that's what came out. And, even with me, going back and forth with some of my editors of this book, of just like, how much can I say John? How much can I say Bull? And would that make sense? Like, I was in email threads of just like, should I use a proper noun here, or should I say Bull? And this was crucial. There's one panel in particular where I use John as just like a noun, but then there's another moment where it's kind of like used as like an adverb and all that stuff. So it's like conversations like that where it's like, oh, this may be tricky for the reader to follow what you're talking about and use content clues. And then, it was just, when I got in those conversations, I had to step back of just like, all right, who do I want to really engage with this book, and how much do I want them to do the work of understanding this, and how much of just like I just want to kind of just like allow them to just like be present and just be a curious viewer. It's just saying like you just not in the culture, and that's fine. It's just you don't have to be into everything to still just have value and appreciate to it and still just move forward. So I went back and forth with those questions, and ultimately it just landed on just being Philly.
Okay.
And so like this book went through probably like 6 or 7 edits, and when it was at the fifth edit where I was making decisions about how much I was using John and how much I wasn't, um, ultimately, the joints that I did use ended up into the sixth edit, no matter what. So yeah, I don't. It was both like a accident and then also just like intentional.
Okay, so I think that you really bring to the forefront like some community issues
Mm-hmm.
in this book. With like, I think you bring to the forefront men's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think you bring forth depression
Mm-hmm.
and gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your experience with these subjects?
Uh, you know, I wanted. I know some of it was just like de dismantling the patriarchy in a way that uh, I was aware of that is so harming. I mean, all the patriarchy is pretty harming. We can throw everything away. But I say that in the sense of just like, I wanted to show a lot of men crying. And I want to show them crying, not in a level of just like being defeated, but showing it as a process of regulating your emotions. And I also wanted to show that we didn't need to have a relationship to a woman to still find value in women. Because I feel a lot of times the rhetoric behind us, saying that, women deserve to be empowered, should be taken care of, we should protect them, is always like, think of that as your sister, as your mother, as I want you to read these books and just be like, they're just people, they're just human, and they deserve all the same rights and justice as everyone else. So that first chapter, when you have Clark Freeman, who has never met Anissa, and he's crying about her, I want you to realize he never had a relationship to her. He just valued her as a person and then admire her for all the work she has done around universal health care. And that was enough. Her personhood and her work. And that's it. And so for me, that was really intentional. I wanted that to be seen. And I didn't want that to be seen in a way of just like the tragedy. I just wanted to see that be seen of just like, this is the best way to regulate my emotions. I'm sad right now. And that's it. This is the best way to regulate my emotions because I have tears of joy. This is a celebratory moment. Mental health has always been a part of my work. So I was going to make it a part of this book because it has been the reason where I'm having, conversations with community members about organizing, about seeing a therapist, about, what are the barriers for us to see a therapist, what are the resources for us. So I wanted to, be invested in this work, and a part of that was this is seen as fringe politics. When you bring up universal health care, you may scare the traditional political folks. But I wanted people to understand that universal health care can be as accessible as our fire departments, can be as accessible as seeing our crossing guards on the street, our construction workers. This could be a real thing. But then I wanted it to be so imaginative that it was becoming approachable. because one of the things that I have heard about the power of will in the pen is the simple fact of just like when you want to write fact, you write fiction because it becomes approachable to readers, thinkers, and all those folks. So, putting it in something imaginative where, people can read people's emotional signals like in pawn shop.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's so practical because it's like universal healthcare is the turning of the corner in our society. But it's
Yeah.
like we're just going to be stuck at the bus stop when we just have to turn the corner to get there. We don't even need to wait for the bus anymore.
Yeah.
So those were kind of just like all the intentions put into the book, and another part of it was just like it was like cathartic for me because like some of the issues brought up in the book either I'm currently experiencing, I have experienced, or I'm just really curious about because I do feel like they're like underlying issues that I observe in people that I'm just people watching on.
So let me ask you this, because one thing I noticed is that you bring forth like a point that it's okay to feel. You know what I mean? And your characters in your book, like they illustrate that whatever you're feeling, it's okay to feel that. So I'm curious as to what you think is the reason that men have that challenge in knowing that it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling.
I think part of it is societal things conditioned that the only switches that we have is empathy and anger,
Mm-hmm.
and we are only valued when we can turn on either one of those switches. Where we have to be mad and just like, oh, you're so passionate, or just like we're showing no emotions. Like, why are you crying right now?
Yeah.
Why are you emotional right now? And I think that's societal things, but then I also think within the societal things, the things that we enforce on each other, just like, yo, you shouldn't cry, and those expressions, things of those natures. And then I also think because of the system that we live in, we're not given the space to feel.
Mm-hmm.
We're given a timestamp of that. Like if you told someone that is grieving that they have 2 weeks to grieve, but when you lost something, you lost a person, that time has no length to it. It is not, is not 2 weeks. It is, recognizing that I have to move this motion of loss, and how I experience loss is going to be, different time to time. Where it's not just like I cry or mourn, I have the funeral, and then I don't have any more emotions after that. It is just like I can wake up a Sunday morning and realize I haven't seen the sun, with my mom in 3 years, and that just puts me in a wave.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's important to have these conversations, but it's just as important to realize that the way we're normalizing our feelings and the things are irrational.
Mm-hmm.
And we must be able to feel in the fullness of it, but also create spaces for us to feel where it's just like, yeah, my break today is going to be a little bit longer because I need to cry about some things. I may need to take more than 3 days off because I just need to celebrate. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the more we allow people to have those feelings, the more we're going to find we have more fulfilling people in our life because they're going to be able to pour into us, and as well as we're going to be able to pour into them. So, that was like significant to me of just like recognizing like these practices that we normalize are just like dumb.
No, they are. Yeah, I think it's huge part of it is just like when you're a kid and like you're not allowed to feel, like you're told to like shut up or
Mm-hmm.
stop crying, or and maybe it's like appropriate because maybe like you're in a situation where it's like, look, this is not the time for you to
Mm-hmm.
do X, Y, and Z. But overall, that's like not something that like we
Yeah.
should normalize. We should definitely let
Yeah.
people
I think
experience.
to highlight your point, I think so much of like our life is told that our emotions are inconvenience versus like them being a sword and shield that we need in our life, meaning us to help us guard what is harming us and then also be on the side of just like naming it so we know how to take the offense of handling it. And I think that's so crucial because it's just like there's no like you can't schedule your sadness at 3 p.m. to 4.
It would be nice.
but
It would be nice if you could.
but so like it just is what it is, you know.
Okay. So what do you hope someone gets out of reading it?
That's always tough for me. I think, you know, on a basic level, I hope you picked up, you know, Pawn Shop and you felt like this was worthy of your money, you know, your time of reading it, basic level. Uh, Take it out of that basic level to a more moderate, you know, expectation. I hope you read it and you said, "This boy can write." You know, yeah, this boy can write, and they have sparked something to make me think about the world differently. And then on a higher level, I want you to just be like, I got to enact the change that has been on my mind for a long time, that has been the only thing that has made sense in my life.
So let's say a major comic book company contacts you, says, "This boy can write. We're getting you at the table." What character do you think that, or hope that they will have you on?
I think the Cupids are a really interesting part of the world and something that I want to expand on.
Okay.
I think the way the book ends, and I did that deliberately. Um, I want to expand on what it means to be a Cupid who's constantly repairing relationships and helping people to stay in love. Because I think so much of just like our dating culture is consumer based versus just like really recognizing the underlining issues that we have and just like choosing people in our life and building community.
Okay, cool. I think that's really cool, man. I
Okay.
think but I also think that you would be great for a lot of characters. I think I think you would be great for like any Norris character.
Oh, word.
Yeah, Norris,
Yeah.
Anansi.
Oh, word. I mean,
Yeah.
if they got a makeup crew for these tattoos, I'm here. Or if they have a hooded character, you know, that would be, yeah. I'm there.
I
I'll try my
mean,
best. Yeah.
they definitely got them.
They do. They do.
So there's something I wanted to ask you about graphic novels in general, because I think that for a lot of people that read or just even non-readers, they look at it as something to not take seriously or not a real form of literature. So tell them why they're wrong.
Uh, I think there's a couple of things I think about that. I think, you know, so much of the world has been more digestible to me because of graphic novel. My learning of Black history came from the graphic novel on Black history because images and words put together made the understanding of Black history better because I'm dyslexic. But I also think if you choose not to read the words, flipping through the pages and looking at the images gives you the story and allows you to take it in ways that just may be just lighter. You know, like I look at I look at graphic novels in the same way I look at a ramp going into a store, where a ramp going into a store serves the purpose of those that need mobile assistance, but it also serves for those that are carrying a lot of things that needs to use a rollie. So to me, it's a both and. When you hit this accessibility need of just like, oh my God, just text after text is just too heavy, or I'm dyslexic, this is just too much. You also hit this other need of just like, I just want something that within one sentence I can get it. I can look at it and get it. And for me, graphic novels serve at that. And it's not something of just like put in the toy box or just for child's play. There's so many graphic novels that we are are just made for adults, just made for adults. And then also, you know, adults don't age out of comic book writing. We just grow up with it, and
That is true.
therefore, there's books for us as we grow.
That is really true. I think there's a very strong point to be made about history itself too, just
Hmm.
because when you look at some people in history, you're basically describing a superhero
Hmm.
or a villain. I mean, when you really just think about it, I mean, like
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman, that she sounds like a superhero, does she not? Like, I mean,
Yeah, she does. And the interesting about that is there's a graphic novel out called Harriet Tubman the Vampire Slayer, where she's really a hero and she's killing vampires and demons, and it's such a great way of just like kind of just like the blending of things where you got historical fiction, but then you got some horror aspects. So when I talk about like being imaginative, there's an allegory going on of just like white supremacy being a vampire of our culture. But
hmm
then you have the kind of just a historical illusion reference of just like Harriet Tubman, of just being an actual figure that was just awesome, that was heroic as you
yeah,
describe it. And when you blend those cultures together, you allow someone who is into horror to also get the history as well. And
yeah,
it's a both and of just like if you had a history buff, you're also getting a little bit of horror where you just imagine that's just this happening, so therefore you can like locate it also in your world where there's vampires in our life. Yeah.
So something I think that's really cool about you, and you're very open about it, because
Mm-hmm.
you said it multiple times, and it's on your Instagram page
Mm-hmm.
too. It's on the back of this book that you're dyslexic.
Mm-hmm.
So how can someone give loving support to someone that is dyslexic or that is not dyslexic but may be dyslexic? So they are never officially diagnosed, but
Yeah.
the signs are there. And how can they give loving support to that person without making them feel judged?
I think you're exemplifying it right now. Just asking,
Mm,
like just a ask, and just for me, since I have been with it so long, I already have tools to just like kind of just like navigate my life to make things more accessible to me. But what has always been accommodating for me is people just to ask of just like what you need, what would be an easier process for this. And then I can normally tell you because I'm already using the tools. I just wanted you to just allow me to show you my toolbox and then get to work.
so give it a toolbox.
Yeah, yeah.
Give it a toolbox, and they could become a
Hmm.
writer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, as a writer, as a dyslexic writer, you know what? To be more specific,
Okay.
I was discouraged for the longest of thinking I could write something past a page or sometimes even a paragraph until I read Wild Sea by Octavia Butler.
hmm
And I thought Wild Sea was just groundbreaking. It was my first introduction to Afrofuturism. And Afrofuturism, for folks that don't know, is just centering black people in sci-fi and fantasy. And when I got to the end of that book, I learned that Octavia Butler was dyslexic. And I
hmm
was like, she just wrote 300 pages. I didn't even think I could get past a paragraph, right? And what I discovered is when it comes to art, we are often feel isolated in it, but what we have to recognize is that we only achieve it in collaboration. All good art is achieved in collaboration. So she had an editor. She had all these people around her to help her do the work. So to speak more specifically to that writer that is dyslexic is recognizing that you don't have to carry the weight alone. It's going to happen in collaboration. And therefore, just like as much as you're being asked, also ask of others. So therefore, the work can get done and you can make great art.
Man, that is amazing, and I love that you mentioned the thing about the paragraph because I'm like I never would have thought that you would saw that as a challenge because like
Oh,
I mean I'm
God.
sitting in front of a book that you wrote,
Yeah.
so it's amazing, man. It really is.
Shout out to my editors and the people that was helping me write this book because it doesn't happen without collaboration. It doesn't
Hmm.
happen out without, one of my editors was Enoch, who helped me with the world building, helping me with the grammar of it. Rollhouse, who was helping me with their editors of like making sure everything is sound. And then, I got Jazz and Javon, who are functioning as illustrators, but they also are asking me clarifying like questions about
Hmm.
the text or about my illustration notes that also help me change the panel. So it all is within the collaboration and the team building.
Okay, and so what do you think your next project is going to be?
um, you know, Building community. I really want to create a Comic Con that showcase Philly being Philly. I think so
Hmm.
many Comic Cons that come to Philly are coming into the downtown area. And I really want to show people that Philly is just row homes and corner stores. And not only do I want to show people that, I also want that to be an access point for someone that to come out from their row home, sit on their porch, and see something nerdy going on, and be like, "Yo, I can walk down the street and enjoy this." And
Yeah.
that's what I want to happen. So I'm really like trying to build a Comic Con that is in the intersection of everything that's me, spoken word, blurriness, all the nerdy things that I'm in, but also live concerts, a live experience that
Hmm.
is going to serve as a celebration of just like who we are. And that's my biggest focus right now.
Yeah, I hope to see you achieve that. I mean, going to a con, it's like a really great experience as like it's
Yeah.
very unique. It's very unique to just walk up and Superman is there or
Yeah.
Batman or whomever is there
Yeah.
and they are just and you're looking at them, they're looking at you and just talking to each other. It's a very cool
And then also
experience.
just like, sometimes when you're in these like what could be considered a niche community of just like playing tabletop games, Dungeon and Dragon, or reading even a comic book, you feel as though you're in isolation.
Hmm.
And I want that community to feel. I was talking to my friend, a colleague of mine, Dame, and he had said this expression to me of just like making sure that it's URL as much as it's IRL, meaning like online as well as in person. And I think when you go to a con, you realize that your interest is not just serving online, but is as in person as well. And you build a community in a way that you just can't just with just like online as well. And I want people to have that, and also I want people that to ignite their nerdism, because sometimes you don't even think of yourself as a nerd until you see it. Like my
Hmm.
mom, she used to watch Charm every single day, but she would never describe herself as a nerd. She gets excited about seeing every Marvel movie, but she would never subscribe to being a nerd. And I think we have so many people like that where it's just like, it's this thing I do. But really, it's like, nah, you're not. There's a spectrum to it. It's a
Yeah.
spectrum to it. You're not playing the tabletop games and all that, but you enjoy the movies. You enjoy the
Yeah.
TV shows. So I want people to see that and realize that they're welcome into the con space as well.
Yeah, no, they certainly are. And it's definitely a great experience. It's a cool experience and it's very unique. You'll meet like a lot of interesting people that
Mm-hmm.
are that can be very, very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, your Instagram is Lindo Yes,
Yeah.
one word,
One
Lindo
word.
Yes.
Yes.
But where can people also find you in the pawn shop?
Is available at Barnes and Noble. In Pennsylvania, is available at all the Barnes and Nobles.
Hmm.
And is also available at a few indie bookstores here in Philadelphia. So that's the Wooden Shoe Bookstore,
Hmm.
Multiverse, and then also H&H Bookstore. So yeah, so that's where you can get pawn shop at a few indie shops as well as the Barnes and Nobles. Online is at all the big retailers. And then as far as me, Instagram is the best way to figure out
Okay.
everything I'm doing and to connect with me. So that's Lindo Yes. That's LindoYes. And yeah, that's where all my stuff is at.
All right, cool. But I'm also gonna say that if you see a dude with a hoodie with like a crown on it with that says poet inside,
That's me.
that's him right there.
These tattoos ain't going nowhere. these are here forever.
All right, cool, man. I really love having you here
Yeah,
today.
I love this experience. Thank you so much for just like having this this conversation with me. I love talking about the book, but I also just really love talking about nerdism, black nerdism, and all the things that allow us to be imaginative.
Yeah, man, I'm all for it. I really want to. So I definitely want to see more books on shelves, but I definitely want to like go in the store and see that like okay, like Static, Lindo Yes, Miles Morales, Lindo Yes, Extra Grand, Lindo Yes, Thor, Lindo Yes.
Word.
I want to see it, man.
You're speaking it into existence. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. So this is the end of today's episode. Special thanks to Lindo Yes. See you in the next episode as we learn about another creative doing some interesting things. Stay positive, stay different, stay weird, and get creative. Yes, thank you, personalized.